He tried to drug me on our anniversary, but I turned the tables. The first time I realized my husband wasn't the man I thought he was, it was supposed to be the happiest night of our marriage. Our 10th wedding anniversary. The restaurant smelled of roses and fine wine, the candlelight flickered across our table, and a small orchestra played in the corner. To anyone watching, we looked like the perfect couple. But behind my smile, I had already begun to suspect the truth. And that night, I caught him in the act, slipping something into my glass. I froze. My heart hammered so loudly I thought it might give me away. For weeks, I had noticed subtle changes in him. Late-night phone calls, a strange distance in his eyes, the way he would push me to drink more than I wanted. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw in that moment. The man who had vowed to love and protect me was preparing to harm me. I knew I couldn't show fear. So I steadied my hand, lifted the glass as though I hadn't seen a thing, and raised it in a mock toast. He smiled, nervous but convincing, and clinked his glass against mine. I excused myself to the restroom, my legs trembling, and in that private space I stared at my reflection. Why would he do this to me? What was his plan? That night wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. I returned to the table, calmer than before, with a new plan forming in my head. Instead of drinking, I pretended to sip, letting the liquid brush my lips but never swallow. I kept him talking, asking about work, about his new business trips, about the woman whose perfume had lingered on his jacket 2 nights before. He shifted in his seat, avoiding my gaze. But the real turning point came when I excused myself again, this time asking the waiter quietly for help. I explained what I'd seen, and to my relief, the manager took me seriously. They suggested I switch glasses with him, unnoticed. That's when the idea truly formed. If he wanted me to drink it, maybe he should drink it instead. So I returned, laughing as though nothing was wrong, and casually nudged his glass closer to me while sliding mine toward him. He didn't notice. His eyes were too focused on me, too eager for me to take that fateful sip. When I finally raised the glass, the one he had poisoned, and toasted once more, I placed it in his hand instead. "Happy anniversary," I said softly. And he drank. The effect wasn't immediate, but within minutes, his words began to slur. His eyes drooped, his face pale. He tried to hide it, but the poison, or whatever he had intended for me, was working fast. The restaurant staff had already called the authorities. By the time he collapsed against the table, gasping, the ambulance had arrived. The truth unraveled quickly after that. Police discovered that he had been planning to kill me for months, all to cash in on a life insurance policy I hadn't even realized he had taken out in my name. And yes, there was another woman, one he had promised a future once I was out of the picture. But what he never expected was my strength, my intuition, and my refusal to ignore the signs. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. People asked me how I could sit across from him, knowing what he had done, and not break down. The answer was simple. I had already mourned the man I thought I married. What sat across from me that night was not my husband, it was a stranger who wore his face. When the trial came, I testified with a steady voice. The evidence was undeniable, the poison traced directly to him. He was sentenced, and I was free. Not free of pain, not free of betrayal, but free of the danger that had been living in my own home. And here's the lesson I carried away: love is not blind. It should never be. Blind. Love should see clearly, with open eyes and an open heart. The moment we start ignoring the signs, the excuses, the gut feelings, that's when we put ourselves at risk. I walked out of that courtroom stronger, not weaker. I lost a husband, yes. But I found something far greater. My own voice, my own courage, and my own worth. So if you ever find yourself doubting, if you ever hear that whisper in your soul that something isn't right, listen to it. Trust yourself, because the truth, no matter how painful, will always protect you. And that's how I turned the tables on the man who tried to poison me, on the night that was supposed to celebrate our love. It didn't end with roses or champagne, but it did end with justice, and with me still standing.